So, welcome. We will do a bit of core practice, some core strength today, different ways. And if you've got your belt, you can have it. I brought a few props out, not knowing what I was going to use, but I'll definitely use the belt at some point. I might use other things, but whatever you have for your practice, just have your props or your supports nearby. Core strength really helps with so much, and standing poses definitely require that core strength to hold you in the fullness of the pose. So we will address that a bit today. And I will always give you modifications, and of course you can always slow things down, or you can do a little bit less if that's what your body needs. So enjoy. So we'll just start just laying on your mat to really notice where your core is. If you need to bend the knees, you can do that just to take pressure off the lower back. We did this the other day, but it's a good idea that we're going to rock the pelvis from 12 o'clock at the top and 6 o'clock at the bottom. Now, I understand that younger people have no idea what a clock face looks like, but what a great image for a lot of movement in circles is a clock. So if you just roll the spine there, so you press into the 12 o'clock in your pelvis, you press into the 6 o'clock. And of course, you can just focus on breathing this. You can do it really slow, or if you want a little more action, you can do it more quickly. When you do it more quickly, it brings you into pressing your heels if you've got the knees bent, which, yes, you need to have your knees bent for this movement. You press into that heels and feel how that connects into your sit bones. Because our core is slightly different in men and women in terms of our center of gravity, but it's also quite similar. It's definitely in this area. And then we're going to stop that movement and we're going to go side to side. So on the clock face, it would be 3 and 9. So if you can imagine 3 and 9. And this movement, or these two movements, can support you finding that core. You know, where does the clock or the hands for the clock insert? So right now we're going 3 to 6, 3 to 6. And you can go a little bit quicker if you want the rhythm and you want the physical warm-up. And then go back to the 12 and 6. And you can go between the 12 and 6 and the 9 and 3. And then let the pelvis settle and see if you can feel where your core is. For most people, it's right under the belly button, but it may not be. It may be like right at the belly button. And another way to feel into this is bring the legs and the arms a bit like an X and see if you can really extend into the toes and the feet and the head and the tail, and then bring everything in. So you flex everything towards each other. And then notice where you feel the action here. And then come back down, find that X again. And then you slowly scoop everything together like you're in the C curve. You're bringing the knees and the elbows towards each other. And then come back into that X position. And then just bring the feet back to the mat. And you can have the hands down. You can have the fingers, interlocked fingers under your head. And then you can bend the knees in and straighten. So this allows us to stabilize the upper body and then really feel into how the legs move through the core in order to engage in this position. Now lately in my own practice, I've been playing a little bit with a little bit of a diagonal business, and if you feel like this works for you, you can bring one hand towards the opposite foot and really feel into those side abdominals, and then come back down. And of course, that's something you can play with in your own time. You can just come up a little bit, or the legs can be a little bit lower if you need it that way. So, however this works for you. If it doesn't work for you, you can keep doing that, bending the knees, straightening. This is just adding a little bit more intensity. And then just release that, and you can press the feet in and just shake out your core here. And then we're going to go into, this is another great way to find your core, is come into reclining eagle pose. So if you can wrap the feet, I found the easiest way to do that is to often move the feet, slide them down the mat, and then wrap them up. So I've got my right leg over my left, and then I bring my right arm. And this could be rather intense, but see what happens when you bring the elbows to the knees. Can you feel your core? Can you feel that center? And then exhale, come down. So you can actually walk the hands and the feet away from each other, the elbows and knees away from each other, and get more length in that whole front body. And then you can bring the knees and the elbows towards each other. And then slowly come down. And you can walk the feet away, hands away. And this might feel a little bit intense, but you can always modify it by just crossing the arms. You can put the hands on your shoulders and then come up like this, if that helps. If you can't wrap the feet around, you just keep them close to each other and come like that. It's essentially you're feeling how the lower body and the upper body are a bit of levers, and then they come into each other. So now change sides. And if you can wrap the foot, great. It helps me if I slide the foot down and wrap the other foot. And then because I've got my left leg over my right leg, I bring my left arm underneath. And then exhale, bringing the elbows towards the knees where I'm getting a bit of a C curve here. And then lengthen the arms and the feet away for a little bit of a stretch in the front body. And we'll do this 2 more times, bringing the elbows to the knees. Come down with a stretch. And again, you can hold onto your shoulders if you need to, or just cross at the elbows. And then 1 more. And then release, and again, press the feet in and just shake it out a little bit. And so that's a few ways that you can start to awaken your core from reclining on your back, so being supine. And now we'll go to a little bit of prone awareness, being on your belly. And this is where, if you have a belt, you don't need a belt, but if you have a belt, what's nice about the belt is it helps you stabilize your shoulder girdle by giving feedback into your elbows. So you're going to put it around, there's that little chip in the elbow, so that when you you've got the arms on the floor. Some people often do this by, interlocking the finger and doing that. So you have a couple of options with that. So we're just going to go into a little bit of half planking. So either you can have the belt there and the forearms long, hands down, or you can interlock the fingers. This would be like if you really want to work towards headstand, because this is how the base of headstand is. And then you can, the simplest way to start this is to extend one leg, tuck the toes under, then extend the other. And then you're trying to create a plank. So you really lift the abdominals here. Feel that power in your core. And then after a few breaths, you can bring big toes together, knees wide, with the arms forward. And then again, coming forward. And if you practiced it this way, you can practice it this way if you want, with the arms parallel. And you're really trying to get those inner forearms down to the floor. And then it's all about engaging those biceps so that your shoulder girdle supports you in this pose. And then maybe extend the other leg first. And then you've got both legs extended into half plank. A couple of breaths here. See if you can feel that length between the tail and the head. And then bring the knees down and go into big toes together, knees wide. Now in your own home practice, if you're working on core support, you can practice as many of these that work for you. And then we'll just play with some variations that you can play with on your own. But I'll show you a few variations, and then if you were to do this home on your own, you can do as many as you want. So we'll bring the forearms down. Again, if you need to interlock the fingers, do it. And also, if you're having trouble with both legs straight, you can just keep bringing the knees behind you and finding core support like this. So if you're having trouble in the shoulders, you can keep those knees down. But those of you who can go into the plank or half plank, come into half plank. And one of the variations is bringing the knee in. So that's going to lift your hips up a little bit, but you can feel how this feeds into the abdominals. Bring the foot back out. Bring the other knee in. And of course, with a practice like this, you could bring the knee out to the side and you can cross it over if that works for you. So the knee can come out to the side and then it can cross over. And then again, come back into big toes together, knees wide. So it's never about just developing the muscles. It's also about being able to release the muscles. So we want to have muscles that can both engage and shorten and also elongate. So we're not going for just one of those. Although some bodybuilders seem to do that. So another variation you can play with is coming into the half plank, and then you just slowly lift up one leg, bring it down, and then you lift up the other. So you're not playing with the pelvis here, you're trying to keep the pelvis as level as possible. And then release that, release the belt. So those are just some variations that you can play with. And then come down totally prone, Bring the elbows together and walk them forward. You can really, the issue with a sticky mat is sometimes your elbows get stuck, but it's sometimes nice to slide on the carpet, but you still can walk those elbows forward and bring the head down. And then we're just getting a bit of a shoulder stretch. And if you keep the legs engaged, you're not taking anything extra into your lower spine. And then release the arms and slowly come to the side. If you can lift the legs, just have a small little baby back bend, Salambhasana. And you're right on your core here. And then bring the hands down. And you're in all fours here. And you might want to walk the hands a little bit forward and tuck the toes under and come into downward dog. Couple of breaths here. Really engage those thighs. And then we'll inhale, go into full plank. And then exhale back into downward dog. We'll just do a few of these just to feel how the core engages when you go into plank. Inhale, coming into full plank. Exhale, downward dog. And if you need a break, you can always go into big toes together, knees wide. We'll do 2 more if you can. If you need a break, you can bring the knees down. Inhale into full plank. Exhale into downward dog. 1 more. Inhale into full plank. Exhale to downward dog. And then everybody come into big toes together. Knees wide. See if you, when you come into big toes together, knees wide, if you can lengthen those sit bones towards the heel. Give yourself lots of support here in those shins and those hands. Length, tailbone to head. And then this time when you come up, just go briefly into a downward dog and walk the feet towards the hands. And then just slowly roll up the spine. And since I started having the belt, for the next pose, we can, if you've got one, if you don't have one, don't worry about it. We're just going to put them in the upper thighs just to remind us of that thigh work, where when we put a belt here, often then you can lean a little bit of the outer thighs out so you get rolling on the inner thighs. So, but if it doesn't work for you, don't worry about it. And then we'll do a little bit of Utkatasana powerful pose. So we'll go into it different ways just to feel what it feels like. So a nice way to go into it is you bring the arms overhead into Urdhva Hastasana, arms overhead pose. And then you go into Utkatasana powerful pose. Now, you don't want to be arching the lower back. You want to pull that in like so. And then inhale, come back up with the arms overhead. exhale down. So we'll try this with various arm positions. Now, inhale the arms forward. Fingers are forward, so you really have to engage those triceps, engage the abdominals, and then go down into Utkatasana, powerful pose. And just notice how that feels in your body. And then you'll inhale up, exhale the arms down. And especially if you're having shoulder issues, you may not want to bring the arms overhead. You may need to have to modify how much your arms go down. But as you slowly bring arms up, you can often feel what's happening with the rest of the body. Whether you start to throw the chest out a little bit or arch in your lower back. So it's often really nice awareness. And then for the third one, inhale the arms out to the side. So now we've got all this width. Now go into Utkatasana and see what happens if you go in it this way. It's sort of a different action. You can also turn the hands forward. See how different this is. And then inhale, slowly come up. So we'll go through each of those with the arms. If you have a preference and you're not able to lift your arms over, or if one of them just feels off, don't do that one, because you can also put your hands on the hips and go into it that way. So there's a lot of variation. So the first one again is arms overhead. So when you're raising those arms up, see if you can not distort the rest of the front body. See if you can keep that length through the tailbone and the head. And then exhale into Utkatasana, powerful pose. Inhale, coming up. Exhale the arms down. Couple of breaths in Tadasana. Then you can inhale the arms in front of you, really engaging those triceps and coming like you're sitting down into a chair, but you really want to lift the abdominals here. Utkatasana, powerful pose. And inhale, slowly come up. Release the arms to your side. You can perhaps feel that this is getting your heart rate going, so you're getting a little workout here. And then inhale the arms up to your side. And this is where often you have to feel, where is that side? How can I keep my collarbone. I was going to use the clavicle, but the collarbone in line here through the shoulder, not dropping it down and not lifting it up. But of course, if you have shoulder issues, you may need to drop the arms down a little bit. And then exhale into Utkatasana. So this is a little bit of a slightly different way of engaging the pose. Do you feel like you can still engage your abdominals, or does this give you something different? And then inhale, come up, and exhale the arms down. And then you can drop the belt, and then we'll come into standing. And if you want to jump, you can bring the hands in front of you and jump wide. If that doesn't work for you, then you can just step with the legs wide. So we'll do a couple of powerful standing poses, and just notice where your core is in that pose. So take the hands in front of your heart or elbows up. Then you bend your knees so you are actually in Utkatasana. And then you can jump wide. That's one of the traditional ways of jumping. And then I'll do mirror image. So left foot toe to heel, right foot heel to toe. We're going to go into warrior one pose and feel how, warrior two pose. Feel how your abdominals engage here as you bend that front leg. So the core really works here, so that you can extend through your fingertips and also really press those edges of your feet so that you're between the weights, balancing in between the feet. And then inhale coming up. If you need to rest the arms down, you can, but if you're feeling that this gives you heat in the body, whatever you need for today, you can keep them out to the side. And then it's right foot, toe to heel, left foot, heel to toe. And you're really extending through those arms as you bend through the legs into Warrior 2, Virabhadrasana 2 pose. Feeling how the core has to support you here. And how stable the lower body is. And then inhale, come up, feet parallel. And you can either inch them closer or you can jump into Tadasana. So the jumping's just going to give you a little bit perhaps more energy, or perhaps it invigorates the body more, but it's not necessary if it's not working for you. So now we're going to go into Parsvakonasana, side angle lateral pose. So bringing the hands in front, going in to Utkatasana with the elbows out, jumping wide if you can. If not, don't worry about it. So the lower body's going to be the same. You're going to bend deeply through Warrior 2. Then you bring that forearm to the thigh. And then the other hand can stay down. You have shoulder issues. Or it can go up. Or it can go up and over. You know, you can always even just place the hand on the hip if you're struggling. But see if you can feel where your core is here in this pose. And the stability in the legs and the lower body allows for this extended line from the left foot out the left fingertip. And then inhale, slowly come up. Again, you can bring the arms down if you need to, or keep them up. And then right foot toe to heel, left foot heel to toe, and then bend deeply through Warrior 2 to then come into Parsvakonasana. Whatever you might do something different on this side if your shoulder is in better shape, but you can keep the arm down, up, or up and over. Feel that extended line. And then inhale, slowly come up. Bring the feet parallel, and you can slowly inch the feet in, or you can jump into Tadasana. And in Tadasana, see if you can find that stability in your feet, through your legs, through your pelvis, your core, and that length from your head to your tail. Just slow the heart rate down. Those are very strong poses, but hopefully you were feeling how it fits into your core. If you have something to sit on, great. You can roll a towel, you can have a block. We're going to do this simple twist where the legs are on one side. So it's like you're making a basket with the foot comes in. And as you sit here, see if you can feel the length in the spine and where your core is, and then you can bring the right hand over and the left hand behind. You can also bring the hand on the other thigh. And since we developed a bit of heat, it's just nice to do a little twist. And then come around to the center. And you can bring the legs in front in Dandasana, and then come to the other side. So you can also, block's just simple because it's solid, but you can also, this is a blanket, but you could fold up a towel or anything to put under this butt cheek so that your pelvis isn't distorted. Because if I sat on the floor, it would be very hard for me to sink this pelvis down. So that's why it's great to have a little, this side of the pelvis, a little height here. And then bring the left hand to the right knee, and with the block, of course, you can have something to put your hand on. But you know, you can use books in your house. They can act as a block. So you just have a book around, you put your hand on the book, gives you a little bit of leverage. So you don't have to invest in all the yoga props. Some of us just like to do that. And then come around back to the center. And if you've got something to put your legs up, this would be a nice way to release the core, is if you bring your legs up on a chair, and there's kind of two ways you can do this if you happen to have a chair. If you don't have a chair, you can still do it with the feet on the floor, pressing them in, and just really shaking out the core. But if you've got a chair, you can both just press the legs in and lift up a little bit, shake it out, or you can come into like a bridge pose with the chair and shake it out. And this is a really nice pose to feel that length in the whole front body. So it's just about sort of shaking out the body. You can also, a couple of choices here, you can also just press the arms up and come into a little bit of a bridge pose, just to open up this front body, because we did a lot of core support. So this is the non-prop way to do it. And if you just had a chair, you can do it that way. And if you happen to have the chair, after you've done the release, a couple of releases, you can then just go into Shavasana this way. Or you can put something under your knees, or you can just come into straight Shavasana. So those are a couple of choices for us to close the practice this morning or this afternoon. And it's, of course, always really beneficial to do inversions, but to be safe, it's often a good idea to have walls and props to do inversions. Inversions means upside down. Head lower than your heart. And as you settle into whichever Shavasana pose that you are taking now, just feel into the abdominals, underneath the rib cage, all the organs that are in there, that are supported in that whole front abdominal category, in that front container, cavity. That was actually the word I was looking for. So in that front cavity, underneath the rib cage, in that abdominal area, see if you can begin to feel your breath, all those internal organs beginning to soften. Fill in that abdominal cavity. Create some space so that the back body that supports your front abdominal cavity softens and widens. And you can feel into the rib cage where the lungs and the heart are supported. And see if you can feel the diaphragm softening. And moving up to the collarbone area, see if you can feel widening out the chest through the collarbones to the shoulder tip. Collarbone notches that are right at the base of your throat, that whole area soften. Back of the neck softens and lengthens. Your scalp is softening. Forehead widens and softening. Space between the eyebrows widens and softens. Your eyes rest into the eye socket. Your cheeks are softening. Your jaw softens. And your chin is soft. And slowly begin to deepen your breath, finding movement in the fingers, the toes. You can slowly start to stretch in your own time. You can come up to sitting. And namaste, and I hope that provided you with a bit of core awareness. And throughout the day, you can take moments and just notice where you are in your core. Am I slouching? Am I supported by my core? Because during the day, we often sit at computers and we forget where our core support is. So can we find that core support and soften around the core support? And namaste, and have a beautiful day.